Over the years, Batman has faced down some of the most dangerous villains in comic book history. Time and time again, we've seen the Dark Knight fight off his rogues gallery and send them off to Arkham Asylum. But what if he faced an enemy he couldn't throw into Arkham? What happens if an enemy is too powerful to be caught or silenced? What if the city that Batman swore to defend turned its back on him? What if, deep in the shadows of Gotham, a mysterious secret society pulled the strings that made Gotham what it is today? On today's video, we will explain the Court of Owls and discuss what makes this story one of the most acclaimed comics in all the New 52. So sit back and enjoy a perfect spread, or the court will send a talon for your head.
Beware the Court of Owls that watches all the time, gazing from the shadows behind cement and lime. They see you at the hearth. They see you in your bed. Take care, beware, or they will send
a talon for your head.
Okay, so before we go any further, I want to give you guys a reminder to hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified every time I upload. So without further ado, let's get started. So the story opens with Batman at Arkham Asylum about to face off against most of his rogues gallery. Joker approaches out of the shadows and says he will fight alongside Batman. So now the question for these villains becomes, what hope do we have of stopping him if his arch nemesis is helping him? As we go back to the manor, we find out that it wasn't Joker at all. It was actually Dick Grayson, disguised as Joker. A bit of a curveball, but it shows just how calculating Batman is. Bruce and the rest of the Bat family are getting ready for another charity event. At this point, the Bat family consists of an older Dick Grayson, former Robin Tim Drake, and Bruce's young son and current Robin, Damian Wayne. As we get to the event, Bruce is outlining his plans for Gotham City. He explains how Gotham is his home and how he wants the rest of its citizens to call it home as well. He explains that he's aware of how crime-ridden Gotham has become and that his plan to rebuild the city will help make Gotham a brighter and safer place. Bruce says that it doesn't matter how rich or how poor a person is, the new foundation of Gotham will give everyone a chance to succeed. Bruce's plan to revitalize the poorer sections of Gotham, building them up, will allow the rest of the city to follow. Bruce Wayne for president, am I right? Okay, so fast forward later on in the night, Batman and Detective Bullock come across a dead body with multiple stab wounds and the knives still in the body. As Batman is examining the knives, he sees a crest of an owl on the handle, indicating that the legend of the Court of Owls is true. However, Batman isn't convinced. He doesn't believe the Court of Owls exists. As he's looking over evidence, he comes across a flammable chemical on the wall. He decides to light it on fire, and in the flames, a message. Bruce Wayne will die tomorrow. So Batman decides to take some DNA analysis of our dead John Doe, and we come to find out he has a match for Dick Grayson. But more on that later. Back in the cave, Batman is examining the body through a hologram, which allows him to view it while he's in the cave, but Gordon and the body are at the morgue. Gotta love Batman's tech. Going over the body, Batman discovers that the man has a filling in one of his teeth, and the filling has a symbol of an owl on it. Gordon talks about the stories he's heard of the Court of Owls, cueing Batman to mention the childhood nursery rhyme. But once again, Batman doesn't believe the court exists, going as far as to say that he knows every inch of the city and his secret society is just made-up stories. Batman ends up being joined by Dick Grayson, and we come to learn that this man has Dick's DNA because while at an event, the man approached Dick and had a scuffle with him, even scratching him. He said the man was babbling about how they're coming, but Dick has no idea who they are. Fast forward to Wayne Manor, where Bruce is being joined by mayoral candidate Lincoln March. And March is the ideal candidate for mayor. He supports Bruce's revitalization plan and vows that together they can rebuild Gotham, and the plans to rebuild will help his campaign. But we start to see Lincoln identify with Bruce. He knows Bruce lost his parents at a young age and says that he did as well. But he talks more about his own mother, saying how he doesn't remember much about her, but that she always wore a heart-shaped pin, and that while he was being taken away after viewing her death, the pin had no damage on it. Just then, while they're talking, Bruce and Lincoln are attacked by an assassin. Lincoln is stabbed, and the assassin turns his attention to Bruce, saying he's been sentenced to death by the court. As they're fighting, they're knocked out of the window, and Bruce gives a long speech about how he knows every inch of the city, then simultaneously landing on a gargoyle on Wayne Tower, saving his fall. We rewind a bit to the 1920s, where we see Alan Wayne, who seems to have lost his mind, yelling at the police that the owls are coming. He ends up vanishing into a sewer, and that appears to be the end of him. Fast forward to present day, Bruce and Alfred are in the Batcave, and they begin to talk about the Court of Owls. Bruce says that the assassin who attacked him in Lincoln was working under the alias of the Talon. Alfred starts talking about Alan Wayne. He states that as he got older, he became obsessed with owls, even saying that owls ended up soliciting in his home. Batman believes Alan to have been insane, once again saying that the Court of Owls doesn't exist, beating that dead drum. So as Batman heads out for his patrol, we get some insight into Alan Wayne. The number 13 was prominent in his life, as he was a very superstitious man. So much so that when the old buildings of Gotham were being built, they skipped over the 13th floor completely. And in the empty space of these buildings were these little tiny apartment-like rooms that were meant to house all the bad luck of the city. Batman lands on one of the buildings and cuts a hole in the 14th floor and falls through. He lands in a small space and comes across a portrait of the Court of Owls dating back all the way to 1891. So what Batman ends up doing is contacting Alfred about the rest of the properties established in the Alan Wayne name. And as he's going through every building, he comes across more pictures and items belonging to the Court of Owls, every building on the 13th floor. As Batman is investigating this last room of the court, established in 2006, there's an explosion and Batman is presumed dead. But take a sigh of relief, because we find out that Batman isn't dead at all. I mean, did anyone think he was? We pick up with Bruce in the Batcave examining the bones of Alan Wayne. He's joined by Dick Grayson and explains how Alan Wayne had an obsession with owls at the end of his life. And if it's true they do exist, he may have been murdered by the Court of Owls. And with this omission, we see Bruce changing his beliefs on if the court is real or not. Dick tells Bruce he needs to stop working so hard on this or he will get himself killed. But Bruce explains how his obsession with the Court of Owls dates back all the way to his parents' death. Bruce tells Dick that as a child he believed the court killed his parents because it was easier for him than to think it was just some guy down on his luck and he and his family were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He needed it to be true. He even finds an owl in the attic. Creepy. And here's where we see Bruce start honing his detective skills. He begins by analyzing the people his parents associated with or had any kind of dealings with. And all the evidence he finds leads him to the Harbor House, which had portraits of owls on the exterior decorum. And for a child, that's all the evidence they need to be convinced. As he's going over the blueprints of the house, he comes across a secret attic that no one seems to know about. Once he's inside, he starts looking through the hidden attic but finds nothing, and the door shuts behind him, and he's locked in for about 3 weeks for his trouble. Bruce explains to Dick how that experience taught him to never lead an investigation based on emotion, which is why he believes the court could exist, but hopes they in fact don't. So what Batman reveals is that while he was examining the bones of Alan Wayne, he came across a number of puncture wounds, indicating that he had been stabbed to death. So he goes to the sewers where Alan Wayne disappeared. And as he's investigating the sewer, he's attacked from behind by a Talon and knocked unconscious. I mean, how often do you see someone able to do that to Batman? It's genius that the owl is also the natural predator of the bat, and we see it displayed in comic form on these pages. We fast forward 8 days later, and Batman is now shown to be stuck in a labyrinth created by the Court of Owls. And we start to see that Batman is losing his mind. He starts hallucinating, even seeing the court in front of him, as well as Talons following him. Now, we've seen Batman get beaten up before. We've even seen him get his back broken. But we've never truly seen anyone able to do this to Batman. The Court of Owls came closer than anyone to actually breaking the bat. So as he's walking through the maze, he finds a room that has pictures and portraits of every person the Court of Owls has killed. Whether they were killed in the labyrinth is unknown, but to see these hundreds upon hundreds of pictures, a disturbing sight to say the least. Batman comes to another room where he finds a mock blueprint of Gotham City, and on the wall, names of the most prominent people within the city itself. But his name isn't on the list, indicating that Batman doesn't matter to them. just an obstacle. Batman later discovers a room filled with red coffins, and one of the coffins happens to be open, insinuating either a Talon is loose or that the open casket is for Batman, and he's going to be the one killed in a labyrinth. However, on the cover of these coffins are pictures of children, indicating that maybe these children were killed by the court, and they're the ones in the coffins. Here is where we see Batman start losing his mind even further. He stumbles upon these mannequins and artifacts, all with owls marked on them, and he begins destroying all of them, shouting at them, "I'm not listening! I can't hear you!" He goes back to the room of portraits and he encounters what appear to be his parents standing in front of him. Batman at this point is so far gone that he believes it's truly his parents, and he's talking to them. But they start to decompose and recompose and shapeshift in front of him. And as he's losing his sanity further, a Talon is able to sneak up behind him and stab him in the back through his stomach. So we flash over to the roof of GCPD, where Gordon and Bullock are on the roof shining the bat symbol in the sky. The light ends up blowing up from being turned on for so long, and they are joined by a young Robin, Damian Wayne. Damian tells them they have to find a way to turn the light back on, if for no other reason than to give him the hope that Batman is still alive. Back in the labyrinth, we see Batman is in fact still alive, and that the court wants to honor him by putting his bones on display after they kill him, which apparently is an honor for anyone ever killed by them, since they're a bunch of psychopaths. The Talon asks Batman if he has any final words, to which he makes a joke about the Talon moving the camera. The Talon continues to beat Batman senseless. He raises him up and asks the court what to do with him. The court allows the youngest member to decide. Hurt him. The Talon continues to pummel Batman, and when it seems Batman can no longer continue, the court all come down and begin to taunt him, possibly even trying to kill him themselves. As Batman is being surrounded, he looks over to see the face of Alan Wayne, begging for someone to save him. It's in that moment that Batman flies into a fit of rage, denouncing his humanity and truly becoming the Batman. The court scatter in fear that they're the ones who might meet their demise, and Batman goes after the Talon. He starts telling the Talon he's tired of hearing about owls and that he knows the city better than them, better than anyone. He says that no matter how many people they've killed or how many fake blueprints they can come up with, they won't ever truly know this city. He reveals that his joke about the camera led him to find traces of a filament, also deducing that the rock they chose to create the labyrinth was highly flammable. Batman detonates the filament onto the rock, giving himself a way out, and before he escapes, he looks back and tells the court, "I'll be back, and I'll come for all of you." We flash forward to a few random members of the Court of Owls discussing the events that transpired, stating that they may now have to wake up all their Talons, so that they may start their plan to take over all of Gotham. So that's the story of the Court of Owls, and now you guys have a better idea of why this comic was so groundbreaking, but not only groundbreaking, why it was so acclaimed by so many people. I mean, this is a group, for all intents and purposes, this is DC's Illuminati, a secret society who works in the shadows behind everything going on in front of the scenes. They are the ones pulling the strings behind all of Gotham City. And for a group like that to kind of take Batman to not only his limits, but to push him in ways that no other villain has been able to do before. Not even the Joker has been able to do some of these things. It's truly groundbreaking to see. And it's frightening. It is frightening. Imagine putting it to like the Shining soundtrack. You guys would lose your minds. So real quick before we get out of here, I want to discuss the possibility of the Court of Owls being in the new Matt Reeves Batman film. And I want to point out a few things here. First, we have how the Talon looks. It's very similar to how Matt Reeves portrays how the Riddler looks in the Batman trailer. Now, it may not actually be the Riddler. It may actually be just a regular Talon. But in this, what we're led to believe is that it actually is the Riddler. And if that's the case, I gotta say, I'm not sure how I feel about it. There's also a few other images here of the court, what looks to be the Court of Owls in the background here. So we may actually get a live action Court of Owls, so we'll see. But let me know down in the comments section what you guys think. Do you think the Court of Owls is going to be in this movie? I want to hear your thoughts. Let's start a conversation. What's your favorite part about the Court of Owls story? What do you like about the Court of Owls? What don't you like about the Court of Owls? Let me know down in the comments section. As always, guys, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that little bell notification. That way you can get notified every time I upload. I'll also leave a link to my social media on the video, so that way you guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, whatever you guys use. That way we can have a conversation there. I want to thank everybody for joining me on Cap Comics Now. Please, everybody, enjoy your weekend, and I will see you next time.